Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great Vera question, and that is, how do you deal with a narcissist or a malignant individual, someone who has become toxic, really sort of really in negativity, very caustic or sarcastic. They might always sort of make you the butt end of jokes or hurtful statements. How do you just sort of get back to your own strength, your own happy place when someone has, perhaps someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic has sort of been complaining about you? So I think the viewer question is, how do you deal with the narcissist who is the complainer? um, you know, so I think that's a great Vera question, and realize that's how they maintain the center of attention. It's like there's an old statement, the squeaky wheel always gets the oil. So if they can be the squeaky wheel, the one who you always have to listen to, the one who has to be louder than everybody else, the one who has to assume control and, as if they are going to create the rules and everybody else will follow. That they are going to be the center of attention and everyone else must follow. So they will create sometimes a very caustic or tension-filled environment based on pressure and based on stress. And that is really, you're then in the life of the overactivity of the amygdala, which is a chronic feeling of fear or insecurity. And it sort of runs the show, it'll run your life. And that will be experienced if you have been around a narcissist who is a sort of chronic complainer about you or others. This is negativity based. This is designed to oftentimes be hurtful, to hurt or maim. So there is like a sort of intentional sadistic attitude or mindset by that narcissistic type of individual who will always complain about you or others, operating out of judgment, and will be objectifying of others, sort of not allowing others to have their own feelings and emotions, and are not sort of taken aback, or they don't feel a compulsion to criticize. So I would say with that type of narcissist, they have a compulsion or an obsession to criticize. It's an ongoing, I would say, cycle that they don't have control over. A narcissist, I think, because they have put so much in their positive mask, that they're not able to sort of level up with people. And so if they can constantly complain, they will then overwhelm and then have control. They will lead the show. So you're being led by negativity. You're being led by something who is sort of pulling your emotional plow into the muck, and so people follow along with it passively. So you have to sort of let go. I'm not allowing this to be my emotional plow right here. I'm not allowing them to plant the seeds. I'm going to let go of that donkey. I'm going to let go of that mule. I'm going to let go of whatever that was, and I'm going to get a horse. Like, I'm going to get a thoroughbred up in here, which means, I deserve the best. I don't deserve to be kicked, just sort of, don't horses buck and everything like this. This just sort of, people get emotional bucked off of their own life. This is very, very scary. And I understand how that chronic complaining, which really ties into a video topic we had the other day about just sort of controlling others through in the trauma bond. I think someone might have brought that up on the live. So I think it's a great connection there and a great question. So someone who is constantly trying to dim others' light, or in the Bible, or, doesn't it say, put a lampshade onto others? It's sort of a strange scenario, but in other words, they sort of will darken others' perspective, and you can study that literature or that scripture. But to my feeling in translation is it sort of has that direct combination or direct parallel to those who are narcissistic and seek to have dominance and control or power over a situation. And that part of that is to be complicit so that you are powerless, not representative, not heard, or validated. So this is just classic textbook narcissistic behavior. So you might find yourself in this battle, and you don't want to battle. Don't engage. It is just a game. It is something. It is like they're trying to sink your battleship. Remember the game back in the day, Sink Your Battleship? They're looking to create losers and winners. Don't step into that game. Don't pick up a game piece. Do not, begin to take cards from their negative deck. Do not, take that, and don't feel guilty, because they'll try to make you feel guilty if you try to sort of come to your senses, that you are wrong, and then that negative devalue and discard. This is just a typical textbook narcissist trait. So they will not acknowledge and validate any sort of being or positivity about you. That this is just not what they do, because to do so would be to be on the level and to have open and honest communication, and they will not engage in that type of communication. They will engage in manipulative communication designed to manipulate the feelings and emotions of others to cooperate and comply with their desires and what they want, and they will keep that going. So at all costs. So even if it means throwing under the bus, but the complaining is sort of how they're able to dominate and control. So if they can create and instill the fear and anger in others, then that's how they are able to get control, or with creating a fear or lack of control in others, and then or an anger, and then that's how they sort of overwhelm and hurt other people's life, their self-esteem. So you have to sort of step out of that negative rut. Just like a wheel that has been going through snow and is created like a big groove, or through mud, turn the ship. Don't continue along that path. Just say no, thank you very much. And to pull yourself out of that negative, orderly direction, thinking, feeling, and behaving, and reinforce that, and then go to a happy place, and a place of peace and harmony and serenity within, where your sense of self is in the positive. They will deprive you of that experience, because to do so is a challenge to them. They have a pathological sense of jealousy or envy, insecurity, and then their own deep-seated anger and their own deep-seated problems are what is being hurled against you. So you have to be able to identify that, and then not, just allow it to be sort of a boomerang and to go back to them. It doesn't mean that it has to injure you or damage you or cause you that sort of emotional deficit in any way, as part of fulfilling that complaining. You have to say, you unfortunately you can't have a discussion with them. You can't defend and justify yourself. It is what it is. You are in the positive. You do want to grow. You do want to evolve. You do have great strengths. You have great experience. You have great character. But they will engage in sort of that complaining, and which is really a form of character assassination towards others. And they will, drip this on you throughout periods of the relationship. Scalding remarks, what else do you call it? A number of the other complaining, of course, is the psychological concept of triangulation, where they can then, compare you to somebody else always, and you are always coming up short. You are less than. This is so that they can elevate themselves. This is, to make themselves look bigger, just like a cat, remember, have you ever seen a cat that gets afraid, and it'll, they're trying to make themselves look bigger. And it is designed to intimidate and, just sort of keep a negative around you. Don't be saddled with that negativity. This is just what they do. Like in the Bible, they're trying to put a lampshade on your light. So in other words, so you can't shine. That is part of the result of those who will constantly complain. They'll seem as if they have authority over you. You will see this either in your family, your neighborhood, your community, or a workplace. And it'll create a very difficult sort of emotional landscape. And you might feel, unlikable as a result of this. So that's oftentimes what they're trying to instill at a very deep core level. So don't buy into the sort of charades that sort of mudslinging that a narcissist will engage in order to sort of eliminate all people who, see them for maybe who they are rather than through the mask. These people you need to cut out. You need to get an emotional knife and just go, unfortunately, I cannot continue to pull that around anymore. That is, dragging me down. So you have to get that sort of plow going on a better ground, which gives a better perspective, a better experience, a better feel for you than the rough, sort of choppy waters of, that sort of being constantly complained about. It will almost become laughable. I would say the degree to which they can complain about others. And if, they might complain about something, you have a pimple. What's wrong with the way that you are dressed? Your hair, your feet, your shoes, the way that you cut your carrots. So, everything can be up for, why are you wearing, don't wear these shoes now. I mean, they're trying to take the power away from you so you cannot think for self. So you really have to take that ability to think for yourself. Don't buy into all the complaints. It's usually designed to cut you down so that they can just sort of walk over you. And that's just sort of the old peer pressure, the triangulation, that sort of, and then the, sort of the, triangulation, which means they're going to talk bad about you and then try to put another person who is sort of parlayed against you. In other words, you are no good, this is better. So they create a judgment and a comparison. They create a problem where there is none, is essentially what they do. And then if because they then come on with this sort of aggression and audacity, as if there is no other viewpoint, it's very narrow-minded, a one-track mind, like you might say. So then they'll then try to convince, brainwash, and gaslight others to that. And so they'll keep that flying monkey scenario going on, which is just how I think it's described in the literature. And I think it harkens back to the Wizard of Oz and that evil witch. Didn't she have the flying monkeys that would go and do some sort of work for her? I mean, you can go and rewatch that movie. And then it creates this sort of always like a constant feeling of being alarmed. Something might go off. Somebody might get mad at you again. So it creates this sort of a complex PTSD, just like as if you were in a battle, a real battle where, your life is threatened. Your self-preservation is switched on high gear. Your amygdala then becomes hyperactive, meaning it's the center where fear is processed. So it's like, be afraid, be afraid. They're just trying to always reinforce, be afraid, be afraid, be very, very afraid. And if you are very, very afraid, you are not going to be able to live your best life. I would say anybody. So if you're in that, I mean, that's a sign for you to be able to make your own assessment for yourself. If they're always trying to create this sort of complaining or false accusations designed to trip you up, be very aware of that tactic and be very well aware of that sort of manipulation style of constantly complaining, degrading, and devaluing. The gaslighting, trying to make you doubt your own reality, as if, so be very well aware of these tactics. And we can have other videos, but, that speak to this, but realize that oftentimes that is a way to limit you, make you smaller, and cause self-doubt, and then self-deprecation, and then self-sabotage. So you're just sort of fulfilling their commands, and then you're just making the way for the narcissist to win whatever their nihilistic or opportunistic attitude, that sort of grandiose entitlement attitude. I think you'll see that is the cause that creates the effect of when they always sort of complain, and it makes them in the right. And oftentimes it can be, if you get into a real borderline issue, then it can be very black and white thinking, which is designed to shut you out, which means, they're trying to create a situation where others don't have a chance. And so don't be made a victim. Don't wear the victim hat, wear the victor hat, reclaim yourself and see it is for what it is. Have the boldness and courage and self-esteem and valuation of self positively enough to see it for what it is, and that you can then cut that out and say, no, thank you. I do not wish to be inundated with a lot of false fear tactics and self character assassination, things that they are just designed to make unstable, to make weaken, to make it possible for them to remain in control. They have this insatiable need, so no matter what, they will not change. They will continue along this path of complaining. They will continue along the path of triangulation. They will continue along the path of gaslighting. They will continue on that path, so you cannot you cannot change their unhealthy rule making. So you have to reestablish boundaries and standards and rules for yourself that you do not tolerate that. You will only make that decision of self-preservation and self-protection once you have a positive sense of self-regard, otherwise known as self-esteem. And you will see that someone with a positive self-esteem, they will not be an energetic match to that sort of combativeness or that sort of manipulation. I hope you really get to that point so you're able to stand and to be and to say, I am, and then be filled up with the positive sense of self, not overly grandiose, not, the way that the narcissist has a sense of self, but from a humble, sense of positive self-regard, which is designed by the positive, of your sense of self. So you need to grow into that. It is a process, but it's a very important decision, perhaps one of the most important decisions you will make in your life. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace within, strength within, peace out, and strength without. Have a beautiful day.